What's up, everybody? We got a very special episode today on the podcast. We're going to be going over Qatar. And you've probably heard about Qatar and Qatar. What are they doing? How are they financing so much? Are they financing the United States? What exactly are they doing? And can you learn about it in depth? So I have a very special guest here, Eitan Fischberger. He's an American who, I believe, you moved to Israel. Is that correct? When you were 10?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he's one of the biggest experts I've seen on X talk about it. He's very respected, one of the most, I would say, four most respected analysts when it comes to Qatar on X. So welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So just 1 second, everyone. We're just going to set this up and everyone just give like 2 seconds before we get started, just setting this up. Eitan, I hope you got it.
Not quite yet. Okay, here I got it.
You got it? Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. So in America, we allow Qatar to spend money on our schools, our podcasts, our journalists, our media, also our universities, right? In Qatar, would they allow Americans to have that sort of participation in their institutions?
No, not even a little. And they like to pretend that they do. They'll host this thing called Media City or whatever it's called in Qatar, where they have offices of Bloomberg and CNN, and they're there making news and all that good stuff. But they never really allow them to fully participate freely in the society. I think the best example we actually saw a few weeks ago, Northwestern. I don't know if you're familiar with this whole Northwestern saga, but it's one of the universities that has a campus in Doha, in what's called Education City. There are 6 campuses: Northwestern, Cornell, someone in Virginia Commonwealth, Georgetown, obviously. These are some of the most important schools in the United States that teach foreign policy. Northwestern does journalism, Texas A&M does nuclear research, Cornell does medicine, et cetera, et cetera. So it turns out that in the contract that Northwestern signed with the Qatar Foundation to establish this campus in Doha, they said, okay, you can have this campus and there can be American students there in Doha and it's all fine, but they have to abide by the law of Doha, of Qatar. And one of those laws is that you can't criticize the royal family. You can't speak out against them. So in other words, they're telling American citizens, you literally cannot, you can't speak out against the regime if you felt like it. You can't comment on the regime if you felt like it. So it's amazing the hypocrisy, right? They're influencing everything in the West, in Europe, in the United States, even here in Israel. But the second someone wants to say anything in Qatar, oh, no, you can't do that. And by the way, they even just imprisoned there's a leader of the Baha'i faith, which maybe some people are familiar with. It's another Middle Eastern based religion, national religious group. And the leader in Qatar criticized the ruling family, and he was put in jail just for criticizing the ruling family.
Yes, as a religious minority, if you look at Iran, they're a boyfriend of Qatar. The Iranian regime, not the Iranian people. The Iranian regime,
of course,
the way they prosecute, harass, torture the Baha'i and Zartosh, I would say, and the Christians in Iran is horrendous. For any of you who have never been to Israel, it's a beautiful Mediterranean, right on the Mediterranean coast, in a beautiful city called Haifa, which is similar, to San Francisco here in the United States. They have a garden, and it's very beautiful, and it's a Baha'i garden, and it goes up this hill. And I highly recommend for any of you who have never had the pleasure to go to Israel. It is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I'm confident.
Yeah, guys, Google it. It's amazing. It's like this beautiful botanical garden with water, and it has water and flowers. It's very beautiful. Very it's awe-inspiring. It's really amazing.
Before we do a deep dive here into the actual financing and going, step by step through it so everyone could understand what they're doing, do you think that if Iran were to get liberated, Okay. And then they have a good relationship with Israel, with a more friendlier government. What do you think would happen to Qatar at that point? Because then they're surrounded by Saudi, they're surrounded by the Emiratis, they're surrounded by Bahrain and Kuwait, which I think would go along with Iran and Israel at that point. So just a quick geopolitical, what do you think the leadership of Qatar would do at that point? Would they stay loyal to the CCP, or would they at that point just say, we're over it, we're done, we accept defeat?
I think that they would continue almost unchanged. I think the thing about Qatar and what makes them so effective is that they have this strategy of hedging, or for lack of a better word, where their basic idea is that they're going to bet on all sides of every issue, of every conflict ever, so that no matter which side comes out on top, they win as well. And they just have so much money and influence that they manage to actually pull it off. So, they're trying to cozy up to the Trump administration right now. If they already had planted the seeds for the Democratic Party, so that if Kamala Harris would have won, they would have had an influence on that administration as well. So I think that in terms of Iran, if the Iranians manage to liberate the country, please God, then I think that Qatar would just, they would just kind of continue what they're doing, because they managed to bet on every side of every issue. So they'd still have America as an ally. They'd still have China as an ally, and that's the major problem with them.
We have a comment here. Someone says, Agnes, welcome to the podcast, Agnes. She says in the comments, she says, Israel has to continue go after Iranian mullahs and get rid of the regime. Then it's going to be peaceful again. I'll tell you, my father is Iranian. I have a Jewish mom. My family history is in Jerusalem and Iran. And the biggest issue with Iran right now is that there is an Arab cult that has basically full control over the Iranian government. It is a cult of Arabs that have allegiance to Iraq and these Arab terrorists. And frankly, Iran is an Aryan culture. If Iran first, it's protecting Iranian Aryan borders, language, and culture, which has nothing to do with an Arab thought. The Arabs invaded Iran, and with rape, murder, torture, brought their faith to an Iranian land. Iranian history, I just want everyone to know that one of the biggest distortions in 2025 is how much in Iranian and Jewish history is shared, especially during the Persian Empire with Cyrus the Great, especially if you look at the Bible and you look at the Purim, the Jewish holiday, Esther. It's undeniable how much Iranian and Jewish people have, a history. And that was disrupted when an Arab cult did a revolution in Iran in 1979. That is an Arab cult. That is a foreign control over the Iranian government. That does not represent 8 out of 10 Iranians who want that foreign influence expelled from Iranian land. So
if I could just add to that point, I know it's not really about Qatar, so I hope you'll forgive me, but I wrote an article, the kinship between the Iranian people and the state of Israel and the Israeli people and the Jewish people, it goes back obviously a long time. Just on my own personal experience, well before October 7th, I was privy to this firsthand, where I wrote an article for a Jewish newspaper about the Human Rights Council and how the UN Human Rights Council, about how terrible they are, which they are, and specifically about the fact that there was the wide scale protests. I think it was 2021 in Iran, right? And I wrote about how the Human Rights Council didn't really do anything to help the people in Iran in the protests, and didn't condemn the government enough. And people reached out to me that I had never met before, people from there on the ground, people that had fled, and they said, "Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and we love the people of Israel." So it's a kinship where they're I guess what I'm trying to say is they're so grateful for the allyship that we have, and I'm so grateful for the allyship that we have, and I really feel like there's a kinship there, and I hope that it continues to flourish, and please God, they should be safe.
So yeah, man, I think you said it perfectly. So I want to go over something here. I think a lot of Americans just don't understand exactly to the extent that the Iranian regime propaganda has been storming us. And I want to pop something up here for you to see and for everyone to see. Okay, here we go. So here's Tucker Carlson, and this is called responsible statecraft. And before we get into what responsible statecraft is, I don't know how many of you are familiar. This past several days, there was a coordinated disinformation campaign on X where they started storming about people getting paid $7,000 a post. And there was a $700,000 influencer campaign. And it was basically about the Zionist control over America, because the Zionists control America with $700,000. That's all it took. Not the $40 billion it took from Qatar. No, they failed. $40 billion from Qatar was nothing, because the $700,000 that the Zionists spent, that's how they won. Okay. Anyway, this article is from a very unique organization, Quincy, that basically backs it. This is the equivalent of when Ann Carroll and the homosexual Nick Fuentes source Mint Press, an Iranian regime-backed media source, and then that homosexual Nick Fuentes has his clips on American social media boosted by bot farms out of Pakistan and Iran. This is coordinated disinformation. These are coordinated campaigns. And that's PSYOP they started when the $7,000 a tweet. Now in videos, anyone who speaks up for freedom, against communism, against terrorism, might get a tweet or reply in the comment section, oh, did you get paid $7,000? That was a coordinated PSYOP. That was a coordinated PSYOP. That was literal disinformation. Qatar and China don't have to worry about that because they just ban us. They ban our bots. They use AI. They have restrictions. We don't. So we have to take that abuse, and we will until we have federal laws to stop it. So in this regard, if you could please, you know way more about this than I do. Could you please tell us a little bit about this journalist, Nick, who posted that article, and what responsible statecraft is, and what sources of financing that they're getting?
Sure. So, I'm not familiar with the person, the scholar, quote unquote, who put out the article itself, but responsible statecraft is basically a project of the Quincy Institute. The Quincy Institute is this DC-based think tank that has its own sort of, I guess you'd call it a press or a newspaper or news outlet, whatever you want to call it. And the Quincy Institute, so in terms of the funding, what I find to be the most interesting is that it was funded largely by George Soros in the beginning of the Open Society Network. George Soros, for those of you who don't know, although I'm sure that most of you do, because obviously your audience is very well aware of these issues. He's basically responsible for inserting numerous communist groups throughout the United States, prosecutors that are soft on crime throughout the United States, funding conciliatory think tanks that love the Iranian regime, that love the CCP and the Chinese government. And so, everything that he does, in my opinion, I think the evidence backs this up, is to sort of fray Western civilization, destabilize the United States from within. He hates it's not him anymore, it's his son now, but his son clearly espouses the same ideology. They want to, do away with everything that makes America great and makes the West great. And so this think tank, also was led early on by a gentleman named Trita Parsi, who, if I'm not mistaken, has been found in court to be an Iranian regime agent. I have an article here in front of me from Tablet Magazine, which is a great outlet that everyone should follow, called Washington's Weirdest Think Tank. This is already back in 2018. And I'm just going to read, if you'll permit me, a quote. So this is, again, the gentleman, Trita Parsi, who led the Quincy Institute, which is responsible statecraft. It says, IRS documents identify Trita Parsi, head of the National Iranian American Council until 2018, as another one of Quincy's co-founders and as its executive vice president. The tax exemption application lists Parsi's estimated compensation at $275,000 a year. So I lost my place here, but Nima, are you familiar with the NIAC?
Not a little bit. I know that Trita was, like, to your point, he was actually basically convicted, or he had those charges of literally running disinformation. And then here he was talking about how Qatar and Iran was Qatar and China. He was basically calling out the fact that Qatar and China were doing it, that people are making this is how sneaky these people are. They're basically saying China and Qatar are doing this as they're doing this. This guy is a criminal. This guy should be prosecuted in court for treason. He should be deported. This guy is not here for. If any American was doing what Trita is doing in the United States, in Qatar, in China, in Iran, he would get jailed. He would get thrown in prison. He would never see freedom. Okay. But here in the United States, he can have a nice home in Bethesda, Maryland. He can have a nice leafy suburb, Bethesda, Maryland, where, be around nice lobbyists and live a nice home, go to Whole Foods, get some organic food, take a holiday to go to the Bahamas, stay at a 5-star hotel. In China or Qatar, he'd be in prison. Point blank, full stop. But we allow it because we love free speech. And I love free speech as an American. I love free speech. I was born and raised Atlanta, Georgia. I love an America. I love free speech for us as Americans. These people are not American. This money that's coming here is not American. They're here for war. There should be a way that we can protect our free speech as Americans here in America. And at the same point, ban their warfare, psychological warfare, information warfare, disinformation they bring into our country. Because without a country, without borders, language, and culture, like Dr. Savage says, you don't have a country without borders, language, and culture. And they're doing a great job. We should copy what Qatar and China do, which is ban foreign spending on their institutions, including media, schools, podcasts, think tanks. You will not see an Ann Carroll in Qatar challenging the government. You will not see a Candace Owens speaking like that about Xi Jinping. I promise you. She cannot do that. But they can pay our podcasters to do that to Trump all day, and it'll never stop. In fact, in 2026, I predict you're going to see more bot accounts, more podcasts, more fighting in the comment section and replies about how we're an awful country, Israel's an awful country, to undermine that alliance, because that's the only thing that's stopping them at this point. Arguably, the 3 alliances: United States, Ukraine, United States, Israel, United States, Taiwan. Once that wall is gone, you basically have an invasion, a flood of communism and these terrorists. You have literally nothing at that point stopping you. It's just gone. It's gone. And that's what they want. And they sell it under don't back foreign wars. America first. We're against the globalist elite. They're using jargon and words that have permeated our universities and our media, when in fact, these are words that they use to sell you on multipolarity, which is what the Chinese Communist Party wants. They want multipolarity. That does not benefit you if you're an American. It does not. It does not benefit you if you're an Israeli. That's us losing power. Point blank, full stop. That's Europe losing power. That's the United Nations pushing us around at the next next year's event, even more. So that's them saying to us, we should walk away and we can't fight. We shouldn't fight. We should voluntarily exit because they can't defeat us militarily. So they're trying to defeat us from within with psychological warfare, and we're letting them. I'm actually more angry with our politicians that we don't have a federal law to stop it. I could do this every day. I'll get exhausted. Eventually I'll stop. Right? But they won't stop because they have 1 billion bots. Those bots don't get tired. Their bots will not get tired. Every year they can just spend billions of dollars. I don't have the capacity to compete with him, and Eitan and I don't have the capacity to work 24/7.
We don't have billions yet. Maybe soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if we did, they still could how much money look at a sheer volume of money China has. I mean, what do you think?
It's an insurmountable amount of money. But, Nima, just to go back to Trita for 1 second, because I don't want to mislead your audience. So if you'll permit me, I just pulled up the information that I have about Trita Parsi. So he was not convicted as an Iranian foreign agent officially. But during a discovery and a defamation lawsuit of the NIAC, internal emails between Trita Parsi and then Iranian diplomat Javad Zarif were unearthed. Some of these emails were allegedly withheld or altered by NIAC during discovery. So he's trying to cover up evidence of their collaboration and their communication. We also have evidence that Shrita Parsi tried to arrange meetings involving Congress members and senior Iranian deputies under President Ahmadinejad and Javad Zarif himself. There's tons of it's all in this Tablet magazine article that I commented on the link to your live stream with. So it's all there if anyone wants to see. But there's a ton of information there on this guy. So just wanted to clarify about that.
All right. So what do you? I mean, when you look at this guy and when you look at what he's doing, to be clear, exactly what he's doing. If an American wanted to do that in Qatar, could they?
No, not even close. They would imprison him so fast it would make your head spin. And not even just an American, everyone. I mean, I remember the Qatari regime imprisoned 6 or 7 people from India who were there for I don't know if they were studying there or working there or whatever, because most of Qatar is just foreign workers, right? And they convicted them of spying for the Mossad or some such nonsense. And they sentenced 6 out of the 7 of them, or all 7, to death. But then only after tons of diplomacy and lots of probably behind the scenes moves, they released the Indian workers. But they were going to put them to death on these sort of specious charges that were trumped up and based on nothing. There's absolutely no freedom of speech in Qatar. If you look at the Freedom House reports, Freedom House is this sort of good database that lays out the human rights situation of each country in the world, of every country in the world. And Qatar always has an abysmal rating, and specifically freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, it just does not exist in the country. So there's absolutely no freedom for an American to do anything of that sort in Qatar.
What do you think about this event that's coming up behind my enemy lines?
It doesn't really seem, they always accuse Israel of committing genocide or some BS, but then they have events like this where these people do not look like they're being genocided. They look like they are terrorists trying to inflict harm on people. It's par for the course. It just seems like typical, pro-Palestine disinformation, incitement to violence, pretty much what we've been seeing since October 7th.
Yeah, the thing is that there's such an invasion of these like NGOs that are getting foreign financing at this point. It's sort of surreal how they can just keep getting away with it, man. And they organize it. You got agents from these foreign countries coming in, and they're creating such issues. I don't know. I think it's just sketchy. The founder of this organization is a guy named Michael Boyd. Are you familiar with him by chance?
What, this behind enemy lines thing?
Yeah.
No, who's Michael?
Yeah, he's the co-founder of it, and it's possible that this is Iranian. This is literally like Iranian regime-backed organization.
The thing about the way that it works in the States is that they have this thing called fiscal sponsorship, right? Which basically means that you have these big foundations like George Soros' Open Society or the Tides Foundation or the Rockefeller Fund, and they get 501c3 status, so they get tax-exempt status. And then they're able to give to smaller organizations, small initiatives that sort of pop up, grassroots, quote unquote, across the United States. And then those small grassroots entities have no transparency requirements. So think about Within Our Lifetime. Are you familiar with Within Our Lifetime? The guys that are all over New York City, attacking Jews and blocking traffic and causing, occupying buildings. So where are they getting their funding from? From all these fiscal sponsors, from Westpac, which is based in Westchester, New York, from Soros, all these guys. And nobody knows who's funding Within Our Lifetime because they all go through these fiscal sponsors. These fiscal sponsors have virtually no transparency requirements. Then their recipients, their beneficiaries, like Within Our Lifetime, have even less requirements. And so we're just, we're never going to know who's funding these groups unless the federal government decides to get involved, unless Congress decides to get involved, unless the House Ways and Means Committee decides to say, okay, IRS, you have to investigate these organizations now. But until we advocate for that, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So you wrote a pretty big article. I'm about to pull it up here, man. And I think a lot of people respected you for doing it. And it was basically discussing the financing of what Qatar is doing in our country. Um, what led you to write that article? I'm about to pull it up, but what led you to write that? It got a lot of good reviews too.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it got a lot of good reviews.
Yeah, no. So what spurred me to do it was the story that you had mentioned before. Sorry.
So sorry, just for people who just coming in. He wrote this article. The numbers don't lie. Qatar, not Israel, is taking control of DC. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words and the support. So what spurred me to write it was actually the story that you mentioned before with the Quincy Institute, which is just, the repository of disinformation and pro-Iran and pro-China talking points. I saw the story. I saw the lie that, Israel is paying influencers $7,000 per post. It's not true. Obviously, if the people at the Quincy Institute had any reading comprehension or critical thinking, they would understand that it's about $450 per post to $750 per post. Obviously, people are going to say, oh, well, Israel is still paying influencers or paying a foreign agent in the U.S. to pay influencers to post content in favor of Israel. Is it a great strategy? Is it an ideal strategy? I don't know. I mean, Qatar probably seems to think so because Qatar has been doing it for like a decade and a half. But it obviously is a difference if it's $7,000 per post versus $450 a post, because virtually every influencer, not virtually every influencer, tons of influencers are paid for content by corporations, businesses, organizations, politicians, countries, whatever. This is just like a fact of life. And to act like it's some sort of nefarious thing is, I think, ludicrous and disingenuous. So it was upsetting to me to see this. And then obviously, because the anti-Israel side is so dishonest, they basically said, oh, okay, well, because a handful of influencers are going to be paid by a lawfully registered foreign agent of Israel, to post content in favor of Israel, which is a staunch U.S. ally, and to post in favor of the U.S.-Israel relationship, that's so bad. They're sort of lumping in everyone now and saying, oh, well, then everyone who's posting in favor of Israel or the U.S.-Israel relationship must be getting $7,000 per post, like what you were alluding to before. So I was really pissed off about it, to excuse my French. And I decided to write this piece about it to show people, no, what Israel is doing, the influence that Israel is trying to do in the U.S. pales in comparison to what Qatar is doing. And obviously, every single country on earth tries to influence the U.S. because the U.S. is the dominant hegemon in the world. And thank God that it is, because I love America. I'm an American citizen. America has been a force for good. And it's obviously just incredible what it's managed to do for the world. Anyway, so I just wanted to show that Qatar is actually the nefarious force here, and that's all projection. So I basically went through the numbers. I went through the numbers of the registered Qatari foreign agents, the unregistered Qatari foreign agents, how much money Qatar has invested in the universities, its global footprint in terms of investment in the U.S., investment in funding of universities, and also even funding of an investment of physical infrastructure within the United States. I just wanted to kind of create as all-encompassing a picture as I could to explain the full scope of this influence and how much they've penetrated into the system.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, no doubt about it, man. It's like when you just see, what was it? I saw something recently of like 80, I think it was like $80 billion or something like that. So
93
billion. Okay.
But for Qatar, I mean, it's a billion here, a billion there. It doesn't matter. They have an infinite amount of cash. So God help us.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, exactly, man. So if Israel's influence is a scandal for the $450 to $700,000 budget, why is Qatar's $250 million lobbying empire, 31 FARA agents, and 600 plus political meetings barely mentioned in the woke pagan media?
Why it's not mentioned, I think, because it just doesn't. It's not an interesting story. It's not the dominant narrative. I think people love to hate on Israel. Israel is the scapegoat of the world. All the classic reasons, right? I think that there's obviously a bit of anti-Semitism infused in there, and it's also the fact that Qatar really is dominant. I mean, the people that I know in DC, they say that Qatar is its influence is so pervasive that people are afraid to speak out. People are afraid to speak out against the regime. I remember there was a scholar at the Hudson Institute a few months ago, and he wrote a piece critical of Qatar, or not a piece critical of Qatar. He wrote a couple of spicy tweets critical of Qatar and its increasing influence in the United States, and he was let go from this think tank. And then they scrubbed all of his articles about Qatar from his think tank page. And I've never seen anything like that in my life. I mean, some of these people are just, they say they don't want to run afoul of Qatari influence. And, it's everywhere. It's in the DOJ, it's in the FBI, it's literally everywhere. And that isn't to speak ill of the people leading these agencies necessarily. I mean, they're doing tremendous work. They're patriots. But it's really, You
still there? Eden? Hey, brother. I think we may have lost him. Hopefully he comes back. All right. Okay, guys. So I think it's just, until he comes back, I'll take it from here. I just think it's sort of unique that we have this foreign monarchy, a country with just like a few 100,000 people who essentially can ban free speech for us in their country. Yet here they have about 136 congressional press credentials. And that's more than the New York Times. And I think that if you were to say an honest assessment of could we do that in their country, and I think the answer is no. I think he just came back here. Hey, brother, you back?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me? All right. So just think about it: a foreign monarchy that has banned free speech at home, yet they have 136 congressional press credentials in the United States. Why do we allow them to have 136 congressional press credentials here in the United States, more than the New York Times? How is that even possible, other than it's sheer corruption in our government? And I'm not even just going to blame Democrats for this. It's easy to blame the liberals. It's easy. But can we not also hold the Republicans responsible at this point? Can we not hold maybe someone like MTG responsible at this point? Ethan, you back? Ethan, you. All right, yeah, there's some issues here. So that's another thing I want to say. And then one more thing I'd like to say here is in regards to the largest foreign funder of our U.S. universities and colleges. If it's coming from an authoritarian state with a religious law that most Americans do not subscribe to, would you call that, in the comments, if you guys could let me know, would you call that education? Or would you say that we have been colonialized, and that is colonialization? Is it colonialization or is it education when Qatar, the largest foreign funder of our universities and colleges, is an authoritarian state with a religious law that most Americans do not subscribe to? Please let me know in the comment section. Ethan, you back?
Yeah, I am so sorry about that. That never happened to me before. I think we may be pissing off some people over in Doha. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, brother. So
I am so sorry.
No, it's all good. So here's a question, man. So we have this foreign monarchy, Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
They're banning free speech at home, and they got 136 congressional press credentials here in the United States, more than the New York Times. How's that possible?
So first of all, we'll start with the numbers of Al Jazeera, and then I think it would behoove us to go through all the numbers, because it's amazing to see how much they surpass everyone else in terms of a lot of this influence. But the way that they have this many credentials is that Al Jazeera is a sprawling empire of media throughout the entire world. It has like 450 million, 500 million households that pay for it. It's all over social media with hundreds of millions of followers. And it is a mouthpiece of the regime. The U.S. Department of Justice has found that it is a totally run and editorialized by the regime, completely controlled by the ruling family. They've ordered them to register as a foreign agent back in 2020, but they have not yet. And for some reasons that are beyond my understanding, although I have my suspicions, they have not compelled Al Jazeera to do so, even though they legally could. In terms of how they have that many credentials, it's because of that. It's because of the fact that it's such a big, enormous empire, this Al Jazeera juggernaut, that, why not have 136 press credentials versus the New York Times is 82? The New York Times has the New York Times, but Al Jazeera has Al Jazeera English, AJ Plus, which is also based in Washington, D.C. They have Al Jazeera Balkans. They have Al Jazeera Farsi. They have Al Jazeera, there's so many of them. So just why not? Al Jazeera, for those who aren't aware, has been a tool of also Hamas in the Gaza Strip since October 7th and well before, to promote terror and to sort of launder terrorist narratives into the discourse. I myself and people far more talented than me have discovered dozens of journalists, quote unquote journalists, who work for Al Jazeera, but actually ended up being terrorists, part of Hamas or part of Islamic Jihad or part of the PFLP. I'm talking about card-carrying members of these terror groups in military uniform one day, but then the next day wearing a press vest. And for some reason, there's no repercussions for this. You have a couple of lone senators and congressmen who are doing amazing work and saying, no, we actually need to call this terrorist mouthpiece out and say that, no, disinformation and terrorist propaganda is not free speech. But for some reason, most are just too silent on this issue.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you think about the fact that they're also able to have, they are the number one largest foreign funder of our universities. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so they've given $6.3 billion to U.S. universities, over the last 20 or so years. The numbers are just unbelievable. I mean, they've given $1 billion to Georgetown, which has obviously its main campus in D.C. and also that campus in Doha that I mentioned earlier. And the thing about Georgetown is that Georgetown has the School of Foreign Service. The School of Foreign Service, which I think is where most of the money goes, if I remember correctly, that is the preeminent school for foreign policy and national security in the United States. Tons of alumni of this school, the School of Foreign Service, end up in the State Department. They end up in the National Security Council, working for the DOJ, because they're learning government, they're learning foreign policy, they're learning, the things that you need to learn in order to function as a country on the world stage and do diplomacy and negotiations and even trade and things like that. And so when you have this regime poisoning the minds of America's future diplomats and national security apparatus, I think it's a national security issue that the U.S. is not taking seriously enough. I wish that they would. There are a couple of think tanks like Middle East Forum and FDD and, JINSA and these organizations that are doing amazing work exposing this influence. But it's nobody's talking about it. And I think that if we have any hope, if we want to have any hope of making an impact and getting this funding exposed and then taken away and then having the regime held accountable, then we need to do a lot better. We, myself included, need to do a lot better of making a ruckus about it. Yeah,
I mean, the fact that, I saw an argument someone made, and I'd love to hear your rebuttal on it. So,
please.
Yeah, man, it's like so there's this tranny influencer, Mel, like crazy lady, village crazy lady. She's on X.
Oh my God, yeah, sure. Oh, she's nuts.
I mean, she's full blown.
Or she, he. I don't know what Mel is. I just thought Mel was a bot, but okay, it's a real person.
Yeah, I think it's a maybe a tranny. I don't know, but
okay.
But, yeah, village crazy lady or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And when I say that, this is not the same thing, for example, when you have a country like Israel, a tiny country like Israel, that's spending a fraction of the money that a hostile country like Qatar or China is spending. First of all, just that alone is not the same thing. You have one person that's spending that hates your country, wants to destroy your country. Then you have another country that likes your country, that actually wants your country to achieve success, because without your country, they're in a bad position. So your incentives are way more aligned. And we're not even talking about capitalism. We're not even talking about democracy. We're not even talking about freedom. We're not even talking about that. So there's shared values, shared incentives. That actually, it's so easy to write that off as Israel as a democracy in the Middle East. It's so easy to write that off. However, what's the other choice? Communism? Or we have a Taliban style government? I mean, like literally that, like, that's one of those, like, which we're at the fork in the road. Which one are we going to go to? Because if you're not supporting them, you're literally supporting the hostile countries that'll take over, take control, and take full influence over the Middle East, and then use that to go further into Europe. Now, here's what I'm saying is that, long story short, at what point do we say, okay, let's put two boxes? And I think most Americans would agree on this. One country is our friend and they have shared interest with us, whether we like it or not. They're not perfect. It's not a perfect friendship, but they are our friend. The next country hates us. They undermine us. They're hostile to us. Those two things are not the same. Okay. The next box, one country spending a little bit of money. The next two countries that are hostile are spending like 200x, 300x, billions more. So we actually have it flip-flop. The hostile countries are spending billions more, whereas the friendly country is spending millions more. And they've somehow, with like 1 billion bot accounts, infiltration of our media, social media, and our universities, have convinced Americans more and more that it's actually the smaller, friendly country that spends a fraction, a few million, that's actually our threat. That's actually our number one national security threat. It's not the hostile countries that are spending billions more. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a very good, astute observation, and I think that the other side has noticed that as well, and they had the same premise that you do, right? Which is, okay, well, obviously one side is the good side, which is Israel and Western civilization, and one side is the bad side, which is Iran, Qatar, China, Russia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey. Those are the main countries that are trying to influence in a nefarious way, the West. And so they said, what we have to do then is sort of sever the bond that has tied Israel and the United States together for so long, and that is sort of the foundation of Western civilization. We need to create a rift between Christians, primarily in the United States, and the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And that's how you see, people like this crazy village lady, Mel, who apparently is a real person, which is news to me, so thank you for that. And people like Candace Owens and people like Tucker Carlson, who I'm not saying are necessarily mobilized or incentivized or paid off by foreign money. I'm not saying that at all. That's also not how Qatar really works. They don't pay you off directly. We can get into how they do what they do. That could be later on in the conversation. But you have these people that are clearly influenced by a foreign agenda, I would say, whether they realize it or not. I always say that the best pawn the best asset is an unwitting asset, right? So they might not even know what they're doing, right? But I think that Tucker's smart enough to know. Candace, I think, has lost her marbles ages ago. But, they're trying to sort of undermine this bond. So that's why Tucker has spent the last 2 years, and especially the last year and a half, just everything that comes out of his mouth is Israel, Jews, Israel, Jews, Israel, Jews. It's not normal. Like, there's something going on here. He's trying to sever these bonds. When he gets up at Charlie Kirk of Blessed Memories, memorial service and says, or alludes to the fact that, the Jews killed Jesus, or, which is like the most anti-Semitic thing. It's like the first anti-Semitic lie. It's like almost the first blood libel you can think of. That's not just happening in a vacuum. It's not just him sort of mouthing off. He's saying that for a reason. He thought very, very carefully about what he was going to say at this memorial for his good friend. It's extremely nefarious, and it's very clear what they're doing. They're trying to sever this bond, and we can't let them do it.
Yeah, I think the fact that Tucker Carlson could now go do these turning point events, get inside these turning point events, and completely push a Qatari, Iranian foreign policy agenda is it's like a wolf in the hen house, man. And no, I don't think anyone's going to stop him. And I literally think he's going to get away with it. And I think that next year we're going to see more of that. We're going to see someone like Megyn Kelly and more podcast hosts. And I think it's going to get to a tipping point where more Americans do it unwittingly as useful idiots to these countries. And I think the one thing, I say this as an American who loves this country. My family fled Iran. Americans saved my grandfather in 1979. He was a military general Yeah, man. My grandfather was a military general. He worked with the Shah. He was the leader of Mashhad, which is the northeastern part of Iran. And he got shot 5-6 times, close range, by an Iranian who trained in Palestine.
Jeez.
And, yeah, he fled through Turkey. He married a Jewish woman, my grandmother. I'm very indebted to the United States. I love this country, and I don't want to see it collapse. And I just think that the number one biggest thing that we're doing right now, the number one biggest mistake we're doing, is giving hostile countries the luxury, the gift of having free spending on our media, schools, social media, universities in America. And I think that if we don't have a federal law to stop that foreign spending, we're going to lose the ball game within a decade, because it's going to undermine us in a million ways. And I just don't. I think that we can all try, but we're not going to beat 10 billion bot accounts. If we're already dealing with, let's say, 1 billion bot accounts, in 2027, if we're dealing with 10 billion bot accounts, we're talking about, for every one of me, there's maybe 10 million bot accounts saying that I'm a Jew, I'm a Zionist, that I got paid $7,000 to do this stream. And we're getting 10 million bot accounts saying Nima got paid $7,000 to do this stream. Nima's a Zionist. Nima's Mossad. Nima's a Jew. Nima is a part of the cabal. Nima's part of the Zionist control of Washington. And when you have 10 million accounts doing that, they're undermining me. They're discrediting me. Now, if they can convince 300 Americans that I am a part of an organization like that, despite the fact that I'm not, that's worrying. And it's not just me. When they can go into Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson's podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and they can just plaster it, all the comment sections, how good she is, and how the Israel bond is so bad. And every disaster that happens in the United States of America, they can always say, but we're giving money to Israel. So basically, there would never be a problem in America, and the government would have the budget for everything if we did not give money to Israel, despite the fact that 99.8% of our federal budget does not go to Israel. And even from that 0.2%, everyone knows it's mostly lending so they can buy products and services from us, and that creates American jobs. But that's besides the point, because 99.8% is not enough. It should be 100%. And we should not have any allies. We should take an isolationist viewpoint. And because when we take an isolationist viewpoint, the Qatar and the Chinese win. And what's scary is that they're winning. And I think I can make 1,000 of these. You and I could do 1,000 of these.
I hope so.
Yeah, but hear me out. But if we don't have a federal law to stop the leaks in the ship, it's almost a losing cause. And I say that to say, I think there should be a solution. And one solution is a federal law banning all foreign spending on our universities, media, and social media. I don't see a way around this, bro, if we don't stop that, because it's pure offense for Qatar and the Chinese Communist Party. They're doing pure offense on us. And we can't even get in there. They have complete defense. It's like you're boxing. They have perfect defense, and we don't even have our guard up. We're just getting hammered. Like, what's the possibility we're going to last 12 rounds? This is not a one-round boxing match. What do you think?
So two things. First of all, I think you're obviously right about the sort of the power imbalance here and the disparity between what they're doing versus what we're able to do. I think that even if Israel was completely not the reliance, not the word. Even if the U.S. cut off aid, quote unquote, and like you said, it's not even aid. It's sort of like the defense spending that goes back into the U.S. economy. Even if that went down to zero, like Israel didn't get any, there was no military transactions or anything like that, they'd still find a way to make it about the Jews, because it's not about Israel. It's about the Jews, right? If you really want to boil it down to it, Israel is a scapegoat. They all know that it's not palatable unless aside from the bowels of X, where people just talk about the Jews and how demonic they are all the time, most people in the West, they're put off by that kind of talk. And so then the bad guys like Qatar, like the Iranian government, they know that, okay, we're not going to say Jews, we're going to say Zionists, or we're going to say Israel. So it's it's a smokescreen, right? Even if it went down to zero aid to Israel, they'd still find a way. They'd say, oh, well, like the Zionists are foreign agents. The Jews are foreign agents. They say that AIPAC, which is an organization which I have a lot of criticism towards, by the way, but it's an organization of Americans. It is not a foreign agent. It's an organization of Americans that believe that a strong U.S.-Israel relationship is good for Israel, it's good for the U.S., and it's good for the world. And they still say that they're Mossad, meaning they say that you're Mossad, you're an American citizen. It doesn't. They're using Israel it's a distraction. It's not about Israel. It's about Jews. It's about anyone who likes Jews. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is I have to politely disagree with you in terms of the need for a federal law. I think that most of the laws that we would need are already on the books. It's a lack of will to enforce them, which is the issue. The Foreign Agent Registration Act, which basically says that if you are an agent of a foreign regime, if you're working on their behalf, you have to register with the government of the United States to say, yeah, we're doing this on behalf of this government. And then they have tons of transparency requirements where it has to say, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it, here's how they're paying us to do it, ABC, right? All these if you go to the FARA website on the DOJ's database, there are millions of documents explaining what all these countries are trying to do. That's great, but it's a lack of will to enforce these measures, which is the issue, which is why I mentioned before how Al Jazeera, or the subsidiary of Al Jazeera, AJ Plus, which is based in Washington, D.C., which is creating social media content on all the big platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, where all the young people are. And the DOJ tells them over 5 years ago, you have to register as a foreign agent. And AJ Plus basically says, nah, we're not doing that. If I was the DOJ, I'd say tough, either do it or get out of my country, but they're not doing that. So they have so many laws that also require transparency in foreign funding that these universities don't abide by, and the U.S. Department of Education chooses not to do anything about it. So I think that, passing a law requires to lobby Congress and get hundreds of congressmen to vote, and it's a whole rigmarole, but the laws are already on the books. It is about getting the executive
how
to
they're
act
keeping
on
it
these
all
laws.
in the family.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to you. Yeah, I want to play you because you mentioned TikTok. I want to pull up a clip. I just want to pull up this clip, man, because I think you make a good point about how TikTok's going after the youth. And this is homosexual Nick Fuentes, guys. I'm going to go put the clip here. But before I go to the clip of the homosexual Nick Fuentes, I just want to say, so he's going to talk about this clip we're about to play is of Nick Fuentes, homosexual Nick Fuentes, talking about Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is known as an American patriot. Larry Ellison is known as someone who is an inventor, innovator. He helped the United States military and intelligence agencies have cutting-edge technology. He's arguably one of the leading forces to help us have the superpower that we are with our military and our economy. He's created thousands of jobs over the world. He's been a fantastic representation of America and what you can do. He came from poverty. Larry Ellison came from poverty. He was adopted. He came from complete poverty. I don't know if many of you know who Larry Ellison is. I encourage you to Google him. He's truly someone I've admired for over 20 years. And he was recently the world's richest man, and he's in negotiation, hopefully, to close this deal to have a larger stake of TikTok. He already has he's already doing cloud computing. He's already doing data. He already has a data storage deal with TikTok, but this is a larger, all-encompassing transaction here. Now, Nick, the clip I'm about to play of homosexual Nick Fuentes is he's going to say something critical of Larry Ellison. Now, just for the record, Larry Ellison has created thousands of jobs more than Nick Fuentes ever did. And Larry Ellison came from nothing but poverty. Is he Jewish? Yes. Is it a crime that if a Jewish man came from poverty and he achieved success and he created jobs and he solved problems and he helped the military have a superpower? Of course they're after Larry Ellison, because Larry Ellison is a gift to America. He's literally a gift to all our freedom. You don't have to like the Jews, but to deny the fact that the Jews are helping the United States achieve superpower is a denial that only the bots will say. If the Jews truly were not an asset to the United States, if Jewish Americans were truly not an asset to the United States, then why do the Qataris and the Chinese focus so much? You could go back decades. I encourage any of you to look back. If you look at Chinese intelligence, CSI, if you look at the Chinese intelligence, you look at what was going on in Africa decades back and how they looked at Israel as a pawn of the United States. This is a fact. This is not something I'm making up. They viewed Israel as a pawn of the United States, but they'll have bots in the United States confuse our low IQ Americans. Unfortunately, I love the low IQ Americans because my IQ is only 91. I'm actually not a high IQ. My dad has high IQ. I don't. So I sympathize with the low IQ because I also have an almost low IQ. They just don't understand. The only thing that separates me from them is that I have a home abroad and I've married a European and my family came from other countries. So just because of my foreign experiences, I sort of see this. I'm mixed also. But I empathize with the low IQ American that gets confused and disoriented. I understand that. I get it. The bottom line, though, is that our enemies do not view Israel as conquering the United States. They view Israel as a colony, as a supporter of the United States. Israel is a pawn of the United States. That is the narrative of how Beijing and Doha look at it, not the other way around. They pitch you the opposite of what's going on. Understand what the sharp person is doing. Understand what the sharp person is doing. They're distracting you as they're stabbing you in the back. That's what Qatar and China are doing. They're very sharp. They're not low IQ. They're smarter than me. And they're winning and they're inventing and they're innovating. You know? And we're going to lose this if we don't hurry the fuck up because we have a short runway before this thing spirals out of control. Not just for the Jews. Fuck the Jews, right? You can say fuck the Zionists. Okay, fine. Fuck me. You know, fuck Eitan. Yeah, we lost. The Jews got expelled from America. Okay, we got expelled. Okay, let's go down. Before I play this clip, let's just say Eitan and I, we get expelled. Ha ha ha. Everyone dances. The Jews got expelled. I lost my home. I had to flee at the middle of the night. What comes day two? Fucking everyone's dancing around here? I'm just genuinely curious. Like, is everyone going to celebrate a Taliban-style government with Ilhan Omar and the AOC and Mamdani? Is that what you're going to celebrate? Are you going to celebrate full-blown communism? Like I'm just genuinely curious what comes next after the Jews like me are deported. All right. Latest clip.
Is in. Are you starting to see how they're keeping it all in the family? Are you now starting to get it? Are you starting to see how the fix is in? So this newly created entity under Larry and David Ellison, let's just review. They will own TikTok outright. They will own Paramount Global and potentially Warner Brothers Discovery. That will include in all their properties, CBS, MTV, Showtime, Nickelodeon. It will include CNN, HBO Max, TBS. It will include UFC. Then they're going to hire Bari Weiss, buy her out of the free press, and make her an executive. All of this under Larry Ellison, close personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you think you're going to get a lot of Israel critical content?
First of all, so what if he is actually friends with Benjamin Netanyahu? How dare this homosexual, Nick Fuentes, who's never fought on the front lines of humanity, who has never fought on the front lines of humanity, civilization, Western civilization, our Judeo-Christian America, our freedom, capitalism, democracy. Who is more on the front lines than Benjamin Netanyahu? They can spin that thing as much as they want. He is one of the greatest heroes in the last 2,000 years for Jewish history. But let's just say fuck the Jews. He is, bottom line, if you're not a Jew and you're a Gentile, whatever it is, you're Goyim, whatever it is that they say that we say about you. My wife is Goyim. My wife is German. My daughter is Goyim. She's not a Jew. She doesn't have a Jewish mother. I'm a Jew. My mother does. My mother's a Jew. My daughter's mom is not a Jew. We have a German Bible in our home in Germany. literally a German Bible. We have a Torah. We have my Jewish books. Yeah, because I love learning from the wisdom of the Talmud. It's a beautiful book, and they slander that, which is crazy because it teaches you good things like having humility, like being a nice neighbor, like being thoughtful and letting people save face. Like it's such a beautiful teaching of, it's helped me as a father, it's helped me as a husband, it's helped me as a friend, helps me as a business person. And the way they slander it online with their KGB bullshit propaganda is nauseating. But anyway, that's besides the point. The bottom line here is that the fact that Israel is holding the line and we're not showing greater appreciation against that, as if they're our enemies. They're turning our allies into enemies. Understand what this guy is doing here. Understand what this guy is doing here. This is a reason why, if you look at Iranian TV, not that many of you would understand how to speak Farsi. That's something I know because I was born with it. My father's Iranian. He was Iranian. But I know how to speak Farsi. You should be amazed how much they promote guys like Nick Fuentes. How much they promote someone like Candace Owens, how much they promote someone like Tucker Carlson. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, brother? You lived in the Middle East. I mean, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the amount of Tucker, Candace, and Fuentes content that has been posted on social media and on these official, foreign channels over the last 6 months alone is staggering. I was looking at Tucker's recent lie about how he lied that during the 12-day war, Israeli officials barged into the Pentagon and demanded that Trump bomb the nuclear facility in Fordo and said, if you don't do it, something or other, like threatening the U.S. government, as if Israel could just barge into the Pentagon and threaten Donald Trump, the strongest, most powerful person in the world, to do something, to bend to their will is insane. So obviously Tucker is, totally full of crap. But then I saw that it was that same clip was played on RT, which is U.S. sanctioned media, official media of the Russian government. It was played on Press TV, which is state sanctioned. It's U.S. sanctioned Iranian state media. It was played on Qatari channels. It was played on Hamas channels. You have Hamas channels lauding and praising Tucker for exposing the truth about how Israel was trying to force the U.S. into bombing the nuclear facilities in Iran. It's total nonsense. I mentioned before unwitting pawns. I think these guys are unwitting. I'll attribute stupidity instead of malice, but I have no words for it, to be honest with you.
All right, let's get back in.
On any of these platforms? You think that's in the cards? This is who owns your mind. They control content creation. They control content distribution. Think of it. Skydance and Paramount and Warner Brothers have studios. They have hard capital assets, lights, camera, stages, the LED video walls now, which they call the volume. This is where they shoot all the new television shows. Think about the vertical and horizontal integration here. These are business terms. They own the literal studios where the content is created. They own the sound stages, the volume, the video walls, lights, cameras, all that. They also own then the television stations, the websites, the streaming services. So they own HBO, they own HBO Max, the app, the streaming experience. They own CNN, which broadcasts the news. They own CBS, which broadcasts the television shows. They own all that. Then they own TikTok, which is where these shows are promoted, where they advertise, where the shows are distributed. CNN, of course, has a TikTok channel. This is where they put the propaganda. So they own the studios, they own the channels, they own the social platforms. They own the whole process. And this is going to be one of the biggest media conglomerates in America. For the first time, combining the social platforms, Hollywood, television, streaming, all in one. Elon Musk owns X. Bezos owns the Washington Post and Twitch. The Ellisons are going to own CNN, CBS, MTV, Showtime, HBO Max, TBS, Nickelodeon, UFC, and TikTok. Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, all in one. And Larry Ellison is finding lawyers for Netanyahu for his legal defense. Larry Ellison is helping Netanyahu buy out his rival daily news websites. Larry Ellison is hosting Netanyahu at his private island, offering him a seat on the board of his company. Larry Ellison's a friend of the Trump government, which is tight with Netanyahu. This is occupation. This is the Jewish nation. These are Jewish gangsters. That's what they are. You know, they wear fancy suits and they're rich. And
yeah, I'm a Jewish gangster, and you know, I am a Jewish gangster. When I did a debate with it was around, it's like a panel on valuetainment. Shout out Adam Susnick. And when I would confront Nick, he just kept deferring to the girl next to him, and he would bully her. He would say basically she shouldn't have been able to vote. Basically, she shouldn't have been able to vote for office. And it's crazy because we actually have women that support him, which I just find crazy. I mean, what are your thoughts on what he was saying?
I mean, obviously everything it's you know, you ever try to like debate a crazy person, it's like they're throwing so much crazy at you, you don't even know how to respond because like you're trying to operate like with reason, with your faculties of reason. And this guy looks, you know, this is the longest I've ever had to listen to Nick Fuentes. So thank you for inflicting this this deep psychological harm on me, Nima. I appreciate it. I feel like I've gotten dumber over the last 5 minutes. But no, he's first of all, he's a really weird guy. Like I said, it's the longest I've ever listened to him. What a weird dude.
All right.
He didn't say anything about Israel. Right, like he's talking about the Jews, and so you mentioned before, like Israel and foreign aid. It brings me back to that. Like, this has nothing to do with Israel. This is an American citizen. Larry Ellison is an American citizen. He's not an Israeli citizen, and he's a really rich dude, and he has friends at the highest levels of all over the world because he's one of the richest guys in the world. And so all these people hang out together, and like that's normal. Everyone does it. It's normal. Jeff Bezos does it. Elon Musk does it. It's just the world. And, you know, the idea that, you know, they always say the Jews control the media. First of all, like if the Jews control the media, then they're super, super anti-Israel, anti-Semitic Jews, because the amount of anti-Semitism and anti-Israelism in the media is just, it's astounding. You know, like some of the most, you know, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel outlets that we know of are run by Jews. So first of all, it's like, well, even if it was all owned by Jews, so what? Right? Jews are not a monolith. Jews are people. They're their own independent people. Nima, you have views. I have views. Other Jews have other views. Like it's just so it's bizarre to sort of lump them together as a monolith, like the way that he's doing. But yeah, I mean, he's chock full of crazy. You know, sorry that Larry Ellison happened to you, Nick. I hope you can survive this catastrophe. You know?
All right, guys. So going back to this clip, this is the homosexual Nick Fuentes discussing Larry Ellison, an American patriot, and with one of the second largest, I believe, database company in the world who helps America with cutting edge technology, help us achieve military superpower, and also has created thousands of jobs here in the United States, compared to Nick Fuentes, who's basically created none.
they have finer things than all of us, but do not forget, they are gangsters. Did they ascend the ladder because of their business prowess? On some level, they're extremely cunning, but in many ways, the fix is in. The CIA gave Larry Ellison the technology. He got a license to own all the data systems in the world. He gets $300 billion. He buys all the networks. He gives Bari Weiss $100 million. She's not worth that much to now run CBS. These are gangsters. This is gangster activity. This is third world shit. This is not first world. This is a meritocracy. They want to talk about a colorblind meritocracy. They want to say it's our high IQ. It's our focus on education. It's not a focus on education. It's nepotism. It's tribalism. It is.
Full stop. Larry Ellison, I just want to emphasize when he's talking about nepotism. In fact, as he's slandering Larry Ellison, basically, Larry Ellison came from complete poverty. He literally was adopted. Like, I think his aunt took him in. So this notion that Larry Ellison came up rich is just completely nonsense.
Base, primitive tribalism. It is a lack of scruples. It is a lack of honor. It is gangsterish tribalism. That is
one last thing. The Jewish people are arguably the ethnic group in the United States that have given the most to charity. If you look at the ethnic groups that have given most to charity, many Jewish people, you look at the involvement they've done with organizations like African Americans, for example. I mean, the list goes on. So this notion that it's just tribalism, heck, my mom's a liberal Jew. She's arguably way more pro-Palestinian than she is for Israel. We have liberal Jews that literally are like free Palestine. So this notion that we're all fucking tribalism is the complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Well, Nima, not to interrupt you, but he hates the meritocracy because the meritocracy is the one of the fundamental pillars of Western civilization, right? Like merit, and it's not just in the parts of the world like Qatar where it's all just the royal family deciding everything and they're getting all the power. That's nepotism. That's the definition. And the Communist Party, that's its own kind of nepotism in the sense that if you're a member of the party, then you have power and you have influence. But if you're not, then you're left to the streets. It's Western civilization is meritocracy, and that's why this guy hates it, because he hates Western civilization. He's projecting. He hates meritocracy. He hates meritocracy because if it was based on meritocracy, he clearly doesn't have merit, because look what he's amounted to. He's amounted to being a guy who records these bizarre clips from his mother's basement, and this is what he's managed to achieve. So that he thinks the meritocracy has failed him. That's why he doesn't realize that he's just promoting Muslim Brotherhood talking points. But it's almost sad.
I mean, another thing, guys, I just want you all to know, I'm just a fan of Larry Ellison. So I could understand a lot of, like, when I was a teenager, I was reading a book about Larry Ellison. Like, I just always admired him for so long. Many of you don't know that Larry Ellison's actually moving his database company to Nashville, Tennessee. I think his son married a woman from there, country singer. But one big reason why he's doing that is to work on curing illnesses. So imagine if Oracle is helping lead the way to cure illnesses like heart disease or diabetes or cancer. Would Nick Fuentes not take that help because Larry Ellison's a Jew? I mean, can you imagine how dark that is to just say, hey, we're going to discredit everything he's doing. So, by the way, if China has one more point I'd like to ask anyone. Look, guys, we got over 1,800 views here during this podcast. Please chime in on the comment sections. I encourage you to chime in on the comment sections, ask questions, whatever. Thank you for everyone joining, by the way, and hanging in there. We've gone longer than Ethan. Thank you for staying so long. I told you.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It's appreciate it, man. I know it's So I just want to say, guys, if China has the largest naval force in the world, right, in regards to shipbuilding, is that accurate?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it sounds accurate. I mean, because it's China, right? They're they're a very powerful country.
Yeah, they literally outnumber us like 4x, like 3.5, 4x. So what does Larry Ellison actually add to the United States? Let's talk about, I don't know how many of you guys, I'm not the most techie guy, but just some basic techie stuff. And I don't know how to build this stuff, but just some basic stuff. Okay. So there's something called cloud and AI. Okay. And if you look at the sort of modernization Oracle is doing to help the American military defeat our adversaries like China in a future Asia Pacific theater, or if they come here, there's already reports of the Chinese training in Mexico and in Canada. So let's just talk about the Pentagon. The Pentagon has something, it's called the Joint War Fighting Cloud Capability. Okay. And that's basically, they're relying on several vendors, including Oracle, to build this like secure cloud that separates them from the public networks. Okay. So Ellison invested heavily in AI, for many of you who don't know, and AI driven analytics that can basically help them work smarter. Also, Oracle and Larry Ellison are helping with logistics and supply chain using their AI. resilience. So just that alone, the Oracle software is actually contributing to the Navy, the Air Force, our VA health network, and that technology is helping track stuff like parts, maintenance, medical supplies all over the world, and it functions directly affect the readiness in both peace and if there's a crisis, there's crisis operations. So one more thing before we go back in is and that's the cybersecurity collaboration with Oracle. These are things that actually help us rather than Nick Fuentes just hating on the Jews. I mean, these are things that a Jew could go and do and help another country have. But he's actually helping us here in the United States. How about a little appreciation this homosexual Nick Fuentes does not give? But let's just talk about the cybersecurity. There's something called this CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And basically what they do is there's major defense points on this hardened data centers, and there's zero trust architecture there. So Ellison has already said that cyber defense is actually the new front line. Okay. And they've redirected billions of dollars. No one forced Larry Ellison to redirect billions of dollars into making Oracle a U.S. cloud region compliant boss with top secret security standards that's helping us have a high-end database, manufacturing, engineering to compete with the Chinese and their AI. And he does R&D here in the United States. They also have a big, globally also. So I just want to emphasize Larry Ellison's helping us way more against people who hate us for all our freedom. His contributions to discount it because he's a Jew is crazy. Just to say that what Larry Ellison is doing with Oracle is just commercial because he's a Jew is crazy. He's a strategic enabler of our U.S. national security, full stop. He's built technology that protects classified data, full stop. Our supplies, that the defense supply chain, and it protects the United States. It makes certain the United States, not Beijing or the Communist Party and all over China, controls that infrastructure. So let's maybe a little appreciation. Thoughts before I go back in?
No, honestly, just preach. Like I said, the meritocracy and what's this here? The meritocracy and just the idea of success. It's antithetical to everything these people stand for. They're miserable. They're ungrateful. I think that the gratitude goes a long way. I think that part of what makes, let's say, Israel similar to the U.S., what makes us so unique in the West is that, we are filled with immense gratitude for everything that we have here in Israel. Every day that we wake up and we're not nuked by the Iranian regime, we consider a big victory. And I think that these people, it's almost like jealousy, towards people like Larry Ellison, who was able to actually accomplish something. So really everything that you're saying, I wholeheartedly agree.
I want to just shout out to the Indians, and I got a lot of love for India. I actually just spoke at an event to doctorate and graduate students in India about the friendship between India and Israel. So we have a comment here, Rajiv Sharma. Welcome to the podcast. I love India. You have a beautiful civilization and history. And I'm very thankful for all the Indian people who have supported me, especially on Instagram, that support all of us Jewish people, frankly, in Israel. You have been a true friend. I know you're dealing with the terrorists in Pakistan who rape your women, rape your daughters, rip off the head of your daughters, and commit terrorism. And it's a shame. I don't feel like maybe there was ever justice for what they did in the Mumbai attacks. But I wish you all safety. Rajiv Sharma said, this is a terrible narrative they are parroting against the Jewish community. As an Indian, we are facing very similar anti-Indian narratives. CloudWatch, 199, Siddharth. And I would love to do a space with you guys, if you're up for it, to push back on these baseless narratives that lead to more dangerous problems. I would love to. I'm a big believer in India. It's a large democracy. They're a true friend of Israel. For Israeli people, once they finish the IDF, they like to go to India. India has a great reputation in Israel. If any Indian person were to ever go visit Israel, you would be welcomed. You would be appreciated. You are loved. And, you know, when the people in the IDF leave for their holiday, a lot of them like to go to India. That's literally one of the most popular destinations because they respect you guys. They love you guys. We're good friends. We're always going to be friends. India and Israel will always have a friendship. We're always there for you to help you. And we appreciate you helping us. Yeah. All right. Ethan, you want to say anything about the India?
No, I mean, yeah, first of all, I mean, I agree. India is an amazing country. I have friends and family who have traveled there for months at a time. After we finish our mandatory military service at age 21, like Nima mentioned, we all like to kind of go travel. And I have, like I said, lots of friends and family who went to India, but not just for a few weeks. I'm talking about months, and they just backpack through the whole country. And it's they rave about it. I have not yet had the privilege of going, although I hope to get there soon.
All right. Shout out India.
Is all they are. And Bari Weiss, they have a bust of her head at University of Austin. She's got her glasses on.
Real quick about Bari Weiss. I know the anti-Zionist, anti-Jews have a hard-on for Bari Weiss. Bari Weiss has like this Democrat audience, dude. Like it's like we're talking about let's not overstate what she's doing. Okay? She doesn't control America, dude. It's just like she has her audience of like these liberals. Like, so what? So what? There's enough people that like Tucker Carlson that are doing the polar opposite. You know, I think like, let's not I don't even know anyone that looks at, I don't know, maybe I do know people that look at Bari Weiss. I've never even looked at her stuff before hearing about her a couple weeks back. But so what if she's supporting Israel? She loves our country. There's no doubt about it. She's done way more for our country than this homosexual.
And people are going to treat her now like she's some intellectual. She didn't earn that position. She's an intelligence asset. They groomed her out of college. She gets picked up because she's a pro-Israel activist. They transport her to Israel where she gets trained to write op-eds. Then they give her resume to Brett Stevens, who's already there. He gives her clout. He gives her credibility. Andreessen Horowitz and Peter Thiel set her up with the Free Press and University of Austin. Now she's at the tippy top of Hollywood, getting a $100 million payday from David Ellison from the Silicon Valley CIA Unit 8200 Nexus. How does Bari Weiss go from Columbia student to the head of CNN or CBS? Was that through merit? Was that because she's a genius? Or is it because she's a Jew? Is it because they help each other? Is it because they're nepotistic, tribalistic? Because they are waging a war on us. They're waging an
I want to say this to everyone. If we have over 2,000 people here, I'd just like to say to all of you, okay, like this little homosexual RJ in the comments who says, this is the guy Nick owned on that podcast. Anyone can look at that podcast and see that Nick was scared of me like a little squirrel. Okay. And he looked at me like a homosexual. Everyone knows that. Now, but I'm a married man. I'm a heterosexual. I'm against homosexuality. I'm a Jewish man. I believe in the Torah. Now, that said, okay, the fact that he talks like this, it's just like a part of it is just his sheer admiration and jealousy and envy. Now, you don't have to like the Jews. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like Eitan. You could hate both of us. You could literally say, I hate you two Jews. But to deny that there's value added from what I just said about Oracle and what they're doing to our cybersecurity, our data analytics, our cloud infrastructure to help the United States military and our intelligence agencies have a fierce advantage against the Chinese Communist Party that outnumber us by 3x. You're telling me the Chinese Communist Party can outnumber us by 3x, but the biggest problem is Moshe in Flatbush, Brooklyn? Give me a fucking break. Moshe is our greatest national security threat in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Not Xi Jinping with the largest Navy force in the world who wants to take Taiwan and take over the Middle East. Somehow we're so focused on the Arabs that we forget China also wants the Middle East. They're the biggest winner, not Qatar. Full stop. Full stop. What do you think?
I mean, I agree, and I think that just the thing about Barry Weiss, that his obsession with her is a little bit strange. I think he I don't really know what his deal is with Barry. Barry, listen, like you said, Barry is a liberal, left-leaning Jew who loves the United States and loves Western civilization, and like, love her or hate her, but like, she's kind of a genius, right? I mean, the Free Press, for those who don't know, the Free Press started as a Substack page. There's a little Substack page, a couple thousand followers, and within 2.5, 3 years, it became such an influential, culture shifting outlet that people are willing to shell out hundreds of millions of dollars to purchase it. I think she's kind of a genius, and honestly, it strikes me as jealousy, because maybe Nick Fuentes thought that he could do something similar and just I don't know, write articles or podcasts like she does, and maybe someone would give him a couple $100 million. And when you realize that that's not going to work, and that not even Qatar or Iran was going to offer him that kind of money, then it just strikes me as jealousy, honestly. Like I said, I almost feel bad for the guy, but I don't, because he's an awful person. But yeah.
Mark, as someone who's met Nick Fuentes, I want you all to know, this is my prediction I make in October 2025. I predict a multi-million-dollar investment will be made to help Nick Fuentes in the United States. And it will come in as American money. It will come in as an American organization. And it's no doubt about it tied to a country like China or Qatar. And they're going to get away with it. And if they don't get away with it, it's us attacking their free speech. Now, I'm all for Nick Fuentes' free speech. I support Nick Fuentes getting back on communist YouTube. I support that completely. I support Nick Fuentes. I've always supported his free speech, honestly. My record pretty much shows that. We'll disclose that. But my friend Nick Fuentes, what I want to say to you is, you are eventually going to get millions of dollars. And when you do get it, you're a young man. And I know you hate me because I'm a Jew. You don't even call me by my name. You call me Jew. And I want to say this, Nick, that when you take that money, just know it's from people that when they conquer the United States, they're not going to care if you're a homosexual or a Jew. You're an infidel. And you're either going to subscribe to their law as an infidel, or your life is gone, right? Or you're going to subscribe to communism. At least with the Jews, you got freedom. At least with the Jews, you got democracy. At least with the Jews, you got capitalism. You don't have to like us. In fact, if you look at European history, there were Europeans who did not like Jews. They did not like Jews. They liked the economic benefits the Jews made. They made the argument that the Jews add economic benefit to our country. Let's keep them. That's a fact. I don't actually think we need Americans all to say, I like the Jews. I think I'm okay with there being anti-Semites. But to take away the value, that's just an emotional decision. That's not a logical decision of reasoning and logic. And I say this as a person with a 91 IQ. I'm very stupid. So I actually have I'm on the border of low IQ. You would think someone with a high IQ like Nick Fuentes, Nick, I think you should know that.
Intelligence war on Americans. They have infiltrated and penetrated every sector of our elite society, all the important decision-making institutions. Is this paranoia? Am I crazy? It's what it is. It's what it is. They're fighting this war. It's a massacre. Everyone is horrified. They're expressing their horror. They want it to stop. So what do the Jews do? They buy the media to tell us not to think about it. And that is exactly how it happened. They noticed people started to hate what Israel was doing, so they bought the media so that no one could talk about it anymore. They said, oy vey, those stupid Americans don't like our brutal war of aggression. We just got to buy the media so that no one finds out about it, so that we can suppress coverage of it, and we can suppress anyone that opposes it. And that way, everyone's going to be on our side. We're a colony. Like that is a more, understand, that is a more total and more overt form of foreign control than the British.
Foreign control. 99.8% of American federal money does not go to Israel. The small portion that does, the 0.2%, not even 1%, the 0.2%, a lot of that is a loan that creates American jobs because they buy products and services. They give us, we all know this. They also give us intelligence. They also innovate and get new technology like the Iron Dome. So let's just put that stuff aside. Well, they also give us intelligence, which is actually fairly important considering at this point we have more Al-Qaeda and ISIS in our country than there is Hamas. Our open borders, we have officially arrived at a point with our open borders where we have more militant ISIS, Al-Qaeda in the United States right now than there is Hamas in Palestine. Thank you to the Democrats. Thank you to the Democrats. And when those guys start going hard, who do you think is going to help? Nick Fuentes' intelligence community? Nick Fuentes' homosexual groypers? Because they saw the tweet that Moshe from Flatbush, Brooklyn did about his lax bagel? That's who's going to help us stop terrorist attacks in the United States? Groyper number 743, the pedophile in Texas? That's who's going to help us. No, it's probably going to be guys from Israel. They're risking their fucking life. Let's show a little bit of respect to the brave men in the IDF and the women in the IDF. That's the hardest, toughest military in the world, full stop. It's the most respected. No one wants to be chased by the Mossad. No one wants to be chased by the Mossad. No one. If you had to pick one intelligence group that you don't want to come after you, who in their right mind would not say Mossad? They're feared. They're respected. And they're actually our friend in the United States. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm thankful that Israel is our friend. I say this as an American. I'm not even Israeli. I'm Israeli. I'm Jewish. My family's from Jerusalem. That happens to be in the state of Israel. But my family was there before the state of Israel existed. Full stop. You can't tell me my family was there if it's a state of Israel or not. I was living with the Arabs. My family was living with the Arabs. I look like an Arab. So I just want to say, let's thank Israel. I thank Israel as an American. I thank them. Thank you, Israel. How about that? How about we start it trending of thank you, Israel. Thank you for helping us against these terrorist, savage beasts and rapists. Ethan?
Like I said, just more of the same from Nick Fuentes. I don't want to waste too many more brain cells trying to analyze what this creep has to say. It's just, I think I've lost brain cells listening to him, honestly.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into the last part of it. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us and appreciate this. Finish this episode with a bang.
British Empire ever had over America, or any of its colonies for that matter. We were more free as British colonists. I shouldn't even say we. I'm Italian and Mexican and Irish. But you were more free in the Roman Empire as a slave. You're more free as a serf in Russia. You're more free as a colonist in America than we are today. Think about it. How do we even know what's going on in the world? The timeline. How do you get your news? Your device, your apps, your timeline. And your timeline is populated by the algorithm. And the algorithm selects certain media outlets to show you. They're going to control all that. They're going to control CNN, which makes the news clips. They're going to control TikTok, which puts the news clips in front of your face. And that's all you're going to see. That's what we call the Matrix. You see why we call it the Matrix? It's not real. It is a hologram. It is not a literal hologram, but metaphorically, it is a simulated media reality that you inhabit. Your opinions, your tastes, the information that you think you came up with on your own, that you think came to you organically, they were put in front of you. Okay, a screen was lowered in front of your face, and a display is showing you what you should think, what you should know, what opinions you should have, who you should like, who you should dislike, who you should hate, who you should kill, who you should vote for. That's the Matrix. And when you look at the names behind the Matrix, Sherry Redstone, how about Rothstein? That's your family name. Why'd you change it? David Ellison. How about Spellman, their real name, which they also changed. Those are all fake names. It's always the same names, and then they change the names. That's the Matrix. By the way, This is all happening in the open. This is not a conspiracy theory. I didn't make this up. People say it's anti-Semitism. How exactly? That's just what's happening. The Jewish organizations said, ban TikTok, too much Israel criticism.
Yeah, because homosexual Nick Fuentes likes TikTok when it's under Chinese Communist Party control. Chinese Communist Party control. The lesser of two evils for you guys who hate Jews. Is it the communists in China who want to destroy us, or the Jews? The 1.4 billion Chinese commies, or the tiny 9 million Jews? You can't even say 16 million Jews, because half of our Jews are woke pagan, almost liberals. So they're pretty much on your side. So we're talking about fraction of that, 8 million Jews versus what? Hundreds of millions of Chinese commies. Come on, man. Give me a fucking break.
The government said, yes, master, we will do it. They did it. And now a Jew who loves Netanyahu owns TikTok. And the Jewish organizations are celebrating, saying, finally, we could get rid of anti-Semitism. So that's just reality.
All right, man. So final thoughts. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you so much, brother. I had you on here. I was having fun. I had you on here for 45 minutes. I kept you long, bro. We went.
No, please. It's been a blast, except for this Nick Fuentes stuff, which I have to go like detox from this. It was tough. But I think that actually the Nick Fuentes, it's got me thinking about something someone said to me once. You know, I've been thinking of the best way to characterize Tucker Carlson trying to do. And someone said Tucker Carlson is a demoralization op. A demoralization op. He's meant to sow division, sure, but more than anything else, to demoralize the American public, to tell them that it's like the inverse of woke, right? I don't know if the term woke right is the correct term, but it's the inverse of the radical woke left. Basically to say you're a victim, everyone's out to get you, the media's out to get you, the Ellisons are out to get you, Barry Weiss is out to get you. You know, this is what Tucker does. He demoralizes the American public, right? And I think Nick Fuentes represents the same thing. I think Nick Fuentes, just from the clip that you showed me of him now, he's the exact same thing. His sole purpose, how he gets his clicks, how he gets his money, how he gets his meaning, you know, it's just to demoralize the American public, to say that you're worthless. Everyone's out to get you. You can never be successful, just like me, like Nick Fuentes. Like Nick Fuentes says, oh, I can never be truly successful. And so, you know, neither can you, right? And I think that this demoralization is the result of this giant infrastructure of foreign funding in social media, in the universities, of these narratives that they're disseminating, you know, in all the mechanisms and all the arenas through which people, you know, ingest information. You know, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to demoralize you. And I think Nick Fuentes, you know, he is a villain himself, clearly, but he is also a victim of this, you know, of this foreign influence, of this foreign agenda. And if we want to, if we don't want more Nick Fuentes sprouting up and running around, just demoralizing the American public, then we need to really get a handle on this foreign funding. So I think whether you realize it or not, I think it actually, the Fuentes stuff perfectly complements the Qatar, you know, agenda that we were referring to before. So I appreciate you showing me these clips, really.
Yeah, man. So where could everybody find you, brother? Where could
Sure. So I am primarily on X at Fischberger. That's Fischberger. I'm also on Substack, where I put out some longer form content. On Substack, you can find me at my name, Eitan Fischberger. That's Eitan Fischberger. Or you can find me at the Fish Files. That's Fisch Files. That's where I publish my long articles on Substack. And I appreciate all the support. Thank you, guys.
Everybody, just so you know, in the event the homosexual Nick Fuentes says something about this, that was Fischberger.
Burger, the Jewish kind of burger.
Yeah, man. Fischberger.
Exactly.
That sounds like a Jew. Yeah. Go ahead. Say the jokes. Go ahead. Get it out of your way. I just wanted to say that so you guys get it out of your way. All right. Follow my boy. He's very good. I love his work. He's a great analyst. He's a great journalist. Follow him on Substack. And thank you so much, man. Hope you enjoy your Sunday. Thank you so much for staying as long as you did.
Thank you for having me.
All right, brother. All right, everyone. Please share the episode if you liked it. And it's going to go out on iTunes and Spotify. So if you want to listen to it on audio tomorrow, it'll be up there. Please leave a good review. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.